Welcome to Politics and Psychology. I'm Dr. Renee Carr, and please introduce yourself in the chats below. And for this to not be a one-sided or one-time conversation, please also leave your thoughts or questions in the comment section below or on social media. Today we are talking about how gender pronouns bully society. And please understand that this is not a conversation to bully or bash anyone, nor is it a conversation to endorse or promote anyone. This is merely a conversation that's based off of science to understand how the promotion of using gender pronouns has come about, and also how it's affecting society, but more so how it's gone from just a self-identification to now it's being a cause that's being promoted. So let's get into it. So first, what is gender and what are gender pronouns? So if you look in English, then you have pronouns which are I, you, he, she, it. And so what you're seeing in social media, whether it's your LinkedIn profile, your Instagram profile, almost everywhere nowadays you're seeing a little line that's there asking, what are your pronouns, or do you want to use your pronouns? And that's what they're referring to. And so a person may say she/he, they may put he/him, or they may even put they/them. And so let's look at what the sex characteristics are for gender. So when you have a sex characteristics, we have primary sex characteristics and also secondary sexual characteristics. So the primary are the ones that are pretty much blatant. They're present at birth and they revolve around your external and your internal genitalia. So it's the penis and the testes in males, and the vagina and ovaries in females. And then you have secondary sexual characteristics which emerge during prepubescence or throughout the post-pubescent phases. And this is where you will see breast emerging or developing in females, underarm hair, pubic hair, people getting taller, chin hair, etc. So that's what we're talking about when people are now using gender pronouns. So if a person has these primary sexual characteristics of a penis or vagina or breast or an Adam's apple, then they may recognize that, well, I know that my primary sexual characteristics are obvious because this is my biology, but I'm experiencing an internal of I feel like I'm a female. And so because it's obvious that they were born a male or born a female, but they want to express that they feel that they are born as a female or a male, so the opposite of what they are biologically born as, then there's become a use of using the pronouns to help express their internal expression or your internal expression of, although I was born with the primary sexual characteristics of male, for example, I'm identifying as a female. And therefore, because it's not obvious, because biology is biology, then I'm asking you to then just use my pronouns of she/he. And so while it's making the person who is experiencing the identity confusion more comfortable, and it makes you more comfortable in not offending the person on saying, oh, you're a she, when they're identifying as a him, then it's good for social graces and for understanding and being respectful of individuals. But the concern is that if a person is experiencing identity confusion or gender identity confusion, and then you continue to promote the person's living in a sense of identity confusion, it doesn't help resolve the confusion. Instead, the acceptance of it then not only promotes the continued sense of confusion, but it also helps to spread the confusion in a society. And this is what we're experiencing. So say, for example, I'll take myself because I'm a female. So I will put down, I don't use pronouns, but if I were to put down Dr. Renee Carr, and then in the profile section, I'm putting she/her, then although I have no confusion about my gender identity, the mere fact that I am using it as a way to join the trend of using gender pronouns, what it emphasizes is that it's a possibility that although I am female and although I am biologically with primary sexual characteristics that are of a female, I actually will feel as if I am a male. And so if you're not experiencing the gender identity confusion, but someone else is, the mere fact that you are even using the pronouns to justify who you are or to explain to people who you are just perpetuates a sense of societal confusion about, well, what really is gender? And so it causes a situation where in science, if you are born a female, biologically you're a female, and then you would have ovarian cancer. So if we then say, well, they're recognizing themselves as a male, but they're having ovarian cancer, then how do we treat this person? And so scientifically, it's causing a lot of confusion. Or if you have testicular cancer because you were born a male biologically, but you want to be recognized as a female, there causes a lot of confusion, and it's recognizing that by going against the very biological sense of identity and because of your sexual characteristics, then regardless of what you feel, it's undeniable that your biological presentation is going to always take over. But when we become as a society where we are now all joining kind of like the bandwagon of not only using pronouns, whether you feel the confusion or not, then you are not only, again, yes, you're being kind and you're being considerate and you're honoring what someone else wants to be called, but you're not resolving the fact that there really is a confusion, and then you're perpetuating a social confusion of, well, really, what is a male, what is a female, and if you are born biologically a male, but you're experiencing a sense of being a female, then how do I interact with you as a co-worker? How do I interact with you if we were in a bathroom? How do I interact with you if I'm your gynecologist? So there's a lot of different loopholes that are being created, a lot of other confusion that's being created because of the uncertainty of, well, what do we do with this non-biological approach to humans who are biological creatures? So that's just one of the beginning things to think about. But I also want to be very compassionate towards individuals who are experiencing gender identity confusion. And if you think about it, a lot of times when you or a person is experiencing identity confusion, imagine how confusing that may be. Imagine feeling very confused, very rejected, very depressed, maybe even suicidal, because you feel as if you are something that you are not. And you feel as if the only way to do that is to then embrace that. So this is a way to have a psychological dissonance, meaning you're separating yourself. So by separating myself from the fact that I am biologically born a particular way, I'm either born female, but I feel as if I'm a male. If I just accept that I'm a male, then it might make it easier on some days or many days to not have the depression or the confusion of feeling so uncertain. But it never really goes away, because then there's this constant battle of trying to overcome what's biologically present. So whether you're using hormone suppressants or just having to try to just personally rectify within yourself, how do I, make sense of my life, feeling so much confusion, then that's a lot for any person to have to endure. And so when we as a society continue to encourage that, you make it more troubling for the person who's already experiencing confusion. Because now if there's a push toward, well, let's just say if they want to be called male, let's call them male. If they want to be called he, let's call them he. If they're not that biologically, let's just do it anyway. But it really never goes away. It doesn't take away the person's sense of uncertainty or confusion. It just makes it easier to navigate day-to-day social interactions. So when we look at the sense of where gender pronouns are bullying society, I did thank you for everyone who's listening. We had our conversation on Monday about how cancel culture is more toxic and how it's also based in narcissism. And so now, because many of the proponents of using gender pronouns interchangeably that will go opposite to your primary sex characteristics based in biology, then now there's a push towards, well, if we don't say our own pronouns, then we're really dishonoring someone else and we're making them feel bad about themselves, and we're going to be canceled, or people are going to think that we're being mean, that we're being homophobic or transphobic, etc. But that's really not the case. If you look at it from a sense of, well, that's what their experience is, it doesn't mean that I have to join them in their experience. So I used the depression example earlier. So if a person is experiencing depression, just like they're feeling as if their world is hopeless, that their life is meaningless and not worth living, in the same sense, a person can feel as if, well, I feel confused and I feel uncertain about my existence as a biological female because I really feel like I might be a male. And so in the same way that you wouldn't go around joining a person in, okay, well, yeah, you're depressed, and yes, maybe you should commit suicide and you should end your life, and I'm not going to stop you because you have the right to choose. That might be an extreme example of how gender pronouns are being used to support persons who are experiencing gender identity confusion, but behaviorally, it's the same. You're encouraging someone to be like, well, I know that you're confused, so I'm just going to continue supporting you and your confusion, and whatever you decide to do is best. But when they come to the counseling session, it still doesn't help. All it does is promote them feeling as if, well, everyone's accepting me, but I still don't feel happy. I still feel confused. I still feel worthless. So in no way am I encouraging any of us to bash or to reject a person who is experiencing gender identity confusion, but I would encourage you to have empathy for what they're experiencing without compromising what your own morals or what your own scientific understanding of biology is. And one way we can do this is to just be respectful of what they're experiencing. So if a person is telling you that they may have autism, or they may be experiencing severe depression or suicidal thoughts, then say, okay, I understand that might be difficult for you, and what can I do to help? How can I be there for you? Now, you may not be able to do that in a work setting, but what you can do is a whole lot more simpler. If they're asking you to put your pronouns there, you can simply decline and then just not do it. If you are then pushed to then say, well, you have to do it, because if you don't, then you are bashing everyone else who is doing it. And you're not supporting the movement of having gender identities that are different than are biological. And therefore, you're being transphobic, homophobic, etc. So that's where the bullying comes in. So if there is an attempt to bully you to use a pronoun, remember that by you doing that, you are accepting not only an individual or a culture or a society of gender identity confusion, but by you just adding your own pronouns there, you are perpetuating that it can only become more confusing about what is a man and what is a female, and who is a male and who is a female. And it's going to make it more acceptable to just go against biology, to go against what we have known for all of humanity, for the creation and the perpetuation of humanity, to just go over helping to make it easier for a person to accept their confusion. So again, if you don't feel comfortable with using the pronouns, avoid being bullied into it by saying, I don't use the pronouns. Or you can say, I prefer not to use the pronouns. And if you use the word prefer, or it's my preference, then you're using psychoneurolinguistics. And because preferences have become so common in our culture, like just because you prefer to do something, it means that it should just be a law. And so by you now using the same word, well, this is what I prefer to be called, or I prefer to not use them, then you are then embracing, I am respecting your preference to use a different gender pronoun. So therefore, please also accept mine and also respect mine. And so in the whole conversation, then again, please, we're using science and love to be compassionate, but also to help our society become better by not perpetuating and promoting confusion by going against just our basic biological existence. So one, If you're being forced to use pronouns, then say, I prefer, or it's my preference not to use pronouns. And if you're bullied into it or they're pressuring you to, you can simply say, well, let's just accept your preferences. I will respect your preferences to be called whatever they want to be called, or I will respect your preferences, and then you can just use the pronoun you, Y-O-U. And so instead of if Johnny, who was born Johnny, wants to be called Joanne, if you don't agree with calling Johnny Joanne, you can say, okay, well, I won't disrespect you by calling you Johnny when you're recognizing yourself as Joanne, but I will just still refer to you with a level of respect. And then what you can do is just say, oh, hey, remember when you said X, Y, and Z? Or, well, what do you think? And that's a good way to get around it in a way that's still letting them not feel rejected, but also allowing you to stick to your morals or your beliefs or your scientific understanding. And then, again, you can just remind them, well, let's accept your preference and I'll accept my preference. And then I also want to strongly emphasize, if you are experiencing gender identity confusion, to just remember that it's okay, because most of the people in the world from the beginning of time have had some sense of confusion about who they are. Why are we here? Why am I here? Is my life having any meaning? And I feel like I should be doing more, or I feel like I'm not living the life I was meant to live, etc. So it may not be to the level of experiencing a deeper psychological confusion, but everyone does feel a sense of confusion. And if you are experiencing your basic confusion of biology, then be patient with yourself and love yourself and tell yourself every day, I love you. And this is going the same for everyone. If you're feeling like a sense of rejection about who you are, if you don't love yourself or don't like how you look, or you are unhappy with who and where you are in life, then also do the same. Focus on your self-acceptance and avoid rejecting and avoid hating yourself, and being patient with yourself to give time. And if you look at it from just a messaging point of view, when you hear messages of you have to use these pronouns, otherwise we're not going to know who you are, that also can then have an unwanted effect of, well, now if you don't really know who I am and I'm depending on society to kind of validate me, but now it's also our culture to not know who anyone is, that's creating more uncertainty and more of a sense of confusion, again, within you, within the individual. So be careful of what you're listening to. Be careful of the words that you are saying to yourself. And also pay very close attention to the words in the music that you are listening to. And this is for everyone. When you have an emotion, the emotion comes from a thought that was triggered. Whether that thought came from a music, came from a song, came from a news bite, or came from yourself. Your thoughts will lead to your emotions. So you heard a thought about all gay men are going to get monkeypox. And if you're already feeling a sense of confusion about your identity, you're going to feel depressed, you're going to feel angry, etc. So you're having a thought that came into your mind, and you're going to have a natural reaction of being ostracized or rejected. When you have that emotion, then that emotion will then lead to your behavior. And that behavior can be sending out a cancel tweet. It can be turning in on yourself and experiencing more rejection, cutting yourself, experiencing more hate, beating yourself up, or feeling as if you're having more of a need to act out and to prove to everyone how wrong that statement was. So if your thoughts lead to your emotions, and when your emotions lead to your thoughts, and if your thoughts are, I am confused about what my biological identity is, your experience will then be the confusion. You will then act and react out of that sense of confusion. So let's take time to go back to the beginning, which is your thoughts. Exploring what those thoughts are, either with yourself or with a licensed psychologist, not a life coach, because that's something that's just a certificate and not actual training. So go to where you can actually have professional help to just help you understand you, not having any particular agenda to change or to promote, but just to help you understand you, understand your thinking, understand how your thoughts lead to your emotions, which lead to your behaviors, and understand how you can love and accept yourself more. And this is for everyone. So I hope we understand that by quietly agreeing or quietly accepting and promoting the use of gender pronouns only serves to cause a society that perpetuates individuals continuing to experiencing inner gender identity confusion, which then causes everyone to then have a sense of gender identity confusion. And if we have basic confusion over our biological foundation of humanity, it's only going to create more problems in science, in education, in our understandings of who we are, and in our personal relationships. So please resist the bullying. Please understand who you are. And if you're uncertain, please get the help that you do need, or just someone that you can talk to who you can trust. And if no one's told you, if you're experiencing identity confusion, if no one has told you that you are worthy or you are loved, I will tell you, you are worthy and you are loved. And confusion does not mean that you are any more worthy of being rejected. So that ends our time for today, but please continue this conversation, and please remember to do so using science and love.
Walk the path of light. And if you run to